Alderman Kennedy. Here. Alderman Moore, Alderman French, Alderman Vaccaro. Present. Alderman Carter, Alderwoman Murphy. Here. Alderman Ogilvie. Here. Chairman Conway.
Present.
5 present. We have a quorum.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Good morning, everyone. This morning, we're going to have the Deputy Treasurer speak as to they had requested to come in today.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. The First Amendment that you have.
Okay, well, hold on.
Sure.
Yeah. Okay.
So, Dave, that one, before we go on that secondary, the committee should have already had,
Okay, Leonard, let's come on up to the microphone. We'll pass these out.
78 is not on the agenda. Again, nobody tells me about it. Okay. All I have is Board Bill 1 on the agenda.
Right.
So if you want to that's this.
No. That was the original Office of Financial Empowerment bill. That one was probably first read a couple weeks back.
Okay,
I can go forward with Board Bill 1. That's totally fine.
Correct.
You can't do anything with that today.
Sure.
But and that was referred to Ways and Means. Yes.
Yes.
The initial bill. I remember that. You're going to need to set that up with the chairman.
No problem. I thought that was done, but no problem. Make a long story short, we are amending Board Bill 1 to add language for Fund 1119. Fund 1119 will add the appropriation of funds for the Office of Financial Empowerment. We did have a budget hearing last week that passed committee with those funds designated there. I won't bore you with the Office of Financial Empowerment. For those of you who have already had numerous conversations with us on it, basically our office, through this board, was granted the opportunity to open our Office of Financial Empowerment right here in City Hall, that we will have a full-time staff person who is offering credit counseling, small business 101s, as well as home ownership classes here right at City Hall. The bulk of the funds, or shall I say 100% of the funds for that full-time staff person will be from private funds which are collected through bank partners who we've solidified. At this point, we have 5 of them. The additional funds that are coming to the office mostly are coming from sponsorships, as well as a portion of the funds that we have set aside from the parking revenues that we collect. Basically, this amendment will move forward with the appropriation of said funds that were budgeted and allocated to that account for this expense.
Okay, well, you mentioned parking funds, but when you set this up, it wasn't supposed to be with parking funds.
That was the original amendment that I thought was going to be before us today, which will show the collection. So from the starting point, we've always wanted this to be a public and private venture. This has never been just something that we would solidify grant funds from outside sources. We've had numerous conversations with Mr. Payne in this regard. We've found several instances in the past, particularly in the Treasury budget, which goes through Ways and Means Fund 340, where there have been things that have been wiped out of that budget, and we've been left to say, okay, well, where does the money come from? And that response has been, well, take it out of parking. And so with the 340 budget, which is not parking, it's our Treasury's operations, which are located just up the hall from us. We've had to pay for salaries for staff. We've had to pay for renovations. We've had to pay for furniture. So there have been a number of expenses that we found that have been taken out of the parking fund that are not directly affecting parking, shall I say.
So how much will come out of general revenue to do this in this next year?
We don't anticipate, we don't see this amendment as limiting any separation of funds, that 60-40 split that we do with the city, we see this as being a part of our net position of the 60% that the Treasurer's Office manages, not the 40% that we give over to the general revenue. Last year, we allocated almost $800,000 toward the general revenue fund. This year, we're anticipating about the same. Of course, I can't give you that exact number because we'll be audited. We do an independent audit every year. That happens in the fall. So around August, September, that will happen. That's generally when those funds are allocated at that time. And as I said, we're anticipating about the same amount, upwards of $800,000 that will go back into the city's general fund.
Okay, but the funds that you want when this was brought to us was all going to be private and not cost general revenue any money?
The ordinance was written in such a way that it may have seemed that way. That's why we've amended it. But no, we are not looking at all private dollars. We have solidified, as I said, a number of grants already and partnerships that are going to fund the Office of Financial Empowerment. I do want to make that clear. However, we do see this as a public and private venture. It's not something I want to also point out that the bulk of the funds that are included in 1119 are those that will go toward the sponsorship of, or shall I say, the seed accounts for our college savings program, which will give every kindergartner entering kindergarten in St. Louis Public Schools a most 529 college savings account. Seeding it with $50, I think that's a very small investment, and I believe the return on that investment, as we are helping more of our students, regardless of their age, their race, their ethnicity, their family's income status. We're talking every kindergartner an opportunity. And I want to point out that we're only seeding $50, the opportunity for matches that will come. That is all pulled from private dollars and fundraising.
All right, these are all great ideas. I just don't know how responsible the general revenue budget is for all of these charitable ideas. Alderman French, any questions?
No questions.
I'm sorry.
No questions.
Alderman Vaccaro.
No questions.
Alderwoman Murphy.
No questions.
Alderman Ogilvie.
Point of order first. Is this amendment actually
No.
before us? No, we're just discussing it.
Right, this is just a presentation by the Treasurer's Office.
Okay. And I am. I may have missed previous conversations about the Office of Financial Empowerment, so I'm not really sure. I'm confused, I guess, is what I will say. Is the idea that this is going to be an annual appropriation to this office? This is a $309,000 appropriation. We're creating a new office, and it sounds like, or a new portion of the Treasurer's Office, and it sounds like there's staff people being provided by private partners, but there's also an allocation from the Treasury budget to do what exactly?
So with the Office of Financial Empowerment, just to give you a little background, in our research, what we find is city treasurers across the United States operate these types of programs. Of course, we have a unique situation here in St. Louis where the treasurer manages parking. So that comes along with the job itself. The Office of Financial Empowerment, as I said, so there are multiple things going on. We do monthly financial literacy lunch and learns that is 100% sponsored by the bank's credit union nonprofit organizations that come in. We do that with our employees. That happens in the Abrams building twice per month. There are 2 different sessions. We see upwards of 60 people that come to those workshops. In addition to that, we piloted a youth financial employment program with CFPB, along with Slate, where we took the young people, got them into free checking and savings accounts. 100% of those students who were saving, we thought that they would save to pay for their tennis shoes, to pay for other expenses. 100% of them said they were saving for school. With that, we also will have in the Office of Financial Empowerment, you're definitely right, a full-time dedicated staff person who would do the credit counseling, who would do the one-on-ones, who will work with our citizens. This is, for us, the office, we see it as helping to educate all of our citizens regarding their financial literacy. We do see this as an annual allocation. Again, most of the funds here will go into a $50 seed account for a college savings program. For our kindergartners entering, we see about 3,500 students who will be entering St. Louis Public Schools, and that's St. Louis Public as well as their charter schools that the allocation is for. Sure.
Can I interject? Okay, so this allocation, the $309,000, is basically to establish a fund to create a $50 savings account for students entering kindergarten.
We have one staff person's salary who's included in there as well, and who's the college account savings coordinator. Those are the bulk of the funds.
Is this so we can make, you know, ongoing changes to the budget throughout the year? Is this something that can be, we can have a little fuller presentation on, where this is the only topic in front of us so we can understand it a little better before?
This last Wednesday, I think Leonard was at the meeting and asked for this, so this was last week was the first time I heard of this, but I told them that they could come in and ask us what they would like. And that's why we're here today. So it's a courtesy that I'm extending. I don't know that we will take this up.
Okay.
And, you know, I think that, you know, we'll ask Paul when we get to cuts and increases to weigh in on this one.
Okay. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much for coming in today.
Sure. I, again, will just point out that the 60-40 split with the city will still occur, that this amendment does not affect that 60-40 split at all. We are taking the funds that are included in 1119 out of the 60% of our net position, not away from the 40% that we give to the city. Again, upwards of $700,000 was granted to the city's general revenue fund, and we don't anticipate a decrease there based upon the amendment that was offered.
Thank you. Morning, guys.
We're just talking about something.
Okay. I'd like to go ahead and then we can circle back on what everybody is thinking, and I'll start with Alderman Kennedy.
I think he'd like to have Paul Payne come up to answer some questions.
Okay. Paul, could you come up? Alderman Kennedy has a couple of questions.
Good morning. Good morning. It's in relationship to the Prop S dollars.
Sure.
And I think it's $341,000 was taken out of that to go to the drug courts.
That sounds, yeah.
That's all I know.
I don't have it in front of me. That sounds about right, but let me look at that. Let's see.
The question
314.
314,000, okay. The question is, as you know, consistently over these years, you've been taking money out of that. And has any thought been to, you know, making that a whole, so you have the whole $1 million to be allocated to various organizations, as opposed to continuing to do this?
Sure, absolutely. And if you recall back when I made the budget presentation to begin with, I went through a page where we've done reallocations from various funds over the years, and simply because we had to balance the budget. The biggest one being capital. And so when we started putting this year's budget together and saying, look, I think we can get to the point where we don't have to do all these reallocations, but capital was the primary one, so that was the one that was selected to say, okay, let's give the ward accounts and recreation capital its full amount. It would have been a little bit too much of a stretch to go to do the rest of them. I'm hoping, as I mentioned, I would like to be able to see recurring revenues match recurring expenditures.
Right.
We're getting closer. If it's next year, I would hope it would be next year, but we're not quite there yet.
With the present, projections, as things are going right now, so you see that 2 years for certain, or if it continues on the present rate?
I would hope that we'd be able to be there next year.
Next year, okay. Okay. I would just, I can stop there in
You
terms
still
of.
got it,
Okay, then.
whatever you like.
Yeah, it's, even if we don't go through the line item and point out where we want to reduce to have this money replaced, I would at least hope the committee would, as we have done in the past, make a statement by saying we'd at least like to see this made whole as soon as possible.
Sure.
So that's really it.
Okay, and how do you, I'm more than happy to go to the E&A meeting and let them know that, or we can do it as a proposed increase, and, at least, whichever way you would like.
Okay.
You can think about it for a minute.
Okay, and thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, Alderman French.
So I agree absolutely with Alderman Kennedy, and it looks like about $314,000 was tapped for drug courts.
Now, we're going to go ahead and do that recommendation. Do you have any other recommendations this morning?
Yes. So as I was saying, $314,000 is what we were looking to replace. One possible thing I would suggest is when Chief Dotson was here, he talked about a $270,000 piece of 3D software that he was looking to buy. I think that is a possible source for that. That was page 236. Paul, were you here when the chief testified?
I was not.
Yeah, I think it was that line item, account 5659215 under police HR software.
What page are you on?
Page 236. If I recall correctly, I think that was that $270,000 piece of 3D equipment. Now, that's a cool toy to have, but sure. Well, I'm just suggesting that's a possible place to at least make up $270,000 of that 314.
Well, the only comment I'd make on that, when I see HR, that sounds like, in my recollection, would be human resources, which means it may be related to their PeopleSoft software as opposed to that one. And again, I wasn't here when he
So I think, if I recall right, I think what he described it as 3D software used to recreate police-involved shootings. And my point to him was that in many of these cases we have actual video, and so it's not the lack of 3D video that prevents us from acting in these cases. And while that's a nice toy to have, it may not be something that needs to come out of general revenue right now.
Right, it's just that I don't know that that's the line.
Okay, so we can check.
If you could check that in the next few minutes, that would be great. You don't have to, give us, we're going to go through each alderman.
Okay.
Any other thoughts, Alderman?
No, that's it right now. Thank you.
Whatever you cut.
Alderman Vaccaro, I'm going to do you last.
Yeah, I don't have anything.
Okay, thank you. Alderwoman Murphy. Let's see, Alderman Ogilvy.
The capital allocations, if we were to recommend a reduction there somewhere, how flexible is that revenue at that point?
Well, the capital allocations just reflect whatever, what the estimates are and based on the latest third quarter revenue estimates. So I think we're pretty well set in terms of, it's a complicated calculus because you're estimating both what your beginning balance is going to be. As
Yeah,
well as
I just mean, we have some restrictions on spending that money on people.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, so that's not a.
Yeah, I don't think you want to venture
Got it.
there.
Okay,
I don't think we had a vote.
that's all.
I guess just hang on for a second there.
Well, I'll ask another question while we're. The courts weren't here to talk about their budget. I was just looking through today. I saw a line item for deputy jury supervisor, I believe. It's going to take me a second to.
Okay.
You must be talking about page 109 of the line item detail.
Thank you, Paul.
And I think why that may jump out there is in circuit court, you had a consolidation of the jury commissioner's office into 311. So while it looks new to 311, if you turn to page 126, that's where it was last year. Because they consolidated the Board of Jury Commissioners, Supervisors into Department 311. So it wasn't.
Okay.
And I'm just.
Got it. Yep.
Okay.
That's why I asked.
Okay.
That's why we trust you, Paul. Thanks.
All right.
Okay. I don't have any other questions.
Okay. Alderman Vaccaro, you had a couple of things that you wanted to put out there.
Well, just that I had sent everybody what everybody had asked for, which, I need to ball this back, which was the Board of Aldermen was looking to put back actually 3 positions. They've been on the books, they just have never been put there, and it's the financial analyst, the legislative research, and these things actually, in the professional services, which that one I'm not sure, but the importance is if we, a lot of us, and I'll just say me, when it starts to talk about writing grants or trying to find money and sources outside, the positions from the guys that talk to me, and that's why I put this stuff out, see a big importance in it. We certainly would have to find the cuts and putbacks on that. I also sent out, in no particular order, the fire department and again the $342,000 they're looking for. I don't have any proposed cuts, but I'm just saying these are things that were asked by different groups. I broke down the fire department. It seemed like the batteries and the battery charger being more important are the most important to them, but that's their total they were asking for. The street department was asking for the $330,000 in salt. And then I had Sharon Carpenter's office call me and ask for 3 positions to be put back in. I don't have anything proposed for cuts or putbacks. These are things that were asked, and so I just wanted to make sure everybody got, there's no particular list of importance, but this is what I was asked, so everybody has a copy.
All right, so let's kind of do these one at a time. And does everyone have the fire department one?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Oh, they like everybody except you, I'm sorry. And Steve, you got the extra ones in front of you.
Is this Steve? Okay.
Mr.
Okay.
But these are not proposed cuts.
We're not doing anything. We're going to just discuss it right now.
There you have it. There.
Oh, I thought that was,
I'm
oh,
sorry. And
it's
that's what
3 of
this
the same
is.
page.
I'm sorry, and that's what this is.
Okay.
This is here, that's there.
Okay,
These are things that were asked.
so none of this is in proper form.
No, none of it's in proper form, and none of it's proposed cuts.
Okay.
Putbacks. Right.
So on the fire department, I know that the chief said that he needed these things. The main concern I have, and I don't have a problem if it's that important, asking them to increase, you know, at the very least for the batteries. If they're only getting a 3-hour charge on their batteries, I think that's, you know, personally, I don't think that that's in the best interest of the men and women that are firefighters.
And the 45
Hold on.
thing.
We're going to do it one at a time, Joe.
Okay.
Does anybody else have anything they want to add on those fire departments? Any other thoughts? And then we can get something drafted up.
Mr.
Alderman French?
So how much is this proposal right now? What are we talking about giving them?
Well, he's gone. Do you have it in front of you?
I do. Everybody has it.
Joe, could you please make sure he has it?
He does. Everybody
Oh.
does.
Okay.
Everybody has it in front of them.
So this is the 342. Okay.
Yeah. And it's broke down in case you think part of that list is more important than others, so if we don't want to come, I broke it down, everything he said.
Sure.
Mr. Chair.
Alderman Ogilvie.
Thank you. Board of Aldermen request is 115. The fire chief expressed to me that the most important components were the batteries and the battery regenerators, which extends their life. So that gets you to 260. If we had $100,000 of salt, that's 360. If we take the Sister Cities program funding and the 3D software, that's the 345 in reductions. That gets us pretty darn close to satisfying, I think, some long-time requests from the Board of Aldermen, some critical stuff for the fire department, and maybe saving us some money in the future on salt. So in my mind, that might be some reasonable tinkering to do.
And I'm not necessarily saying we'll have to send these decreases if the amount out of a 400 and something million general revenue budget, I think they may be able to finesse sources of funds, which I would consider in the big perspective, from the perspective the size of the budget, I think that that's something that they should be able to finesse. But at the very least, we want the batteries and the chargers, the regenerators. Is that a pretty much? Let me just hold on, Alderman. Is that kind of a consensus? Do you think the batteries are important, Alderman French?
Well, I was wondering what the Director of Operations thought, because at the Public Utilities Committee yesterday, he suggested that there might be some disagreement between his conversation with the fire chief. Come on up.
Yeah,
The budget director and I sit in these meetings where the appointing authorities present, and this was not made an issue during those meetings, and that's what I would question. I was just going through the budget. I didn't get enough details, but there are some significant increases when you look line by line in the fire department, and I'd have to question the true need and what the other asks were for. When you look, I didn't bring the budget book up here with me, but there's some, other increases. Well, what was the battery request? How much money was the?
100,000.
Yeah, that seems a little serious when there's other numbers there.
So you're saying there were some other items in the fire department budget which were increased that might have been more, not as important as these batteries, for instance?
So you can see in the in the 1010 budget, in our protective clothing, there's an extra $100,000 in there. The emergency systems, there's an extra $100,000 in there. So there was some, serious consideration given when this budget was prepared by the budget department as well as myself. And
so you think it might be some money within the fire department that could be moved around if the chief felt he really needed these things?
yes, and I I suspect it needs a little further discussion with him to figure out where that is.
Okay.
Thank you.
And then Alderman, so my suggestion here is, since everything that everybody has said is, in the big scheme of things, not that large, if we have a conscious issue about making sure we've done what we've done to make this come up into them and let E&A say no, then we've gone ahead and done it. I'm not saying we have to come up with a cut to match this.
Sure.
And the same thing with what Alderman Kennedy had an interest in, to make sure that everybody is thinking the right way in future years. So my suggestion is we can go ahead on the, what I'm going to suggest is that we suggest that we do an increase in that fund for the $145,000 for the batteries and the regenerators. The V&A, upon review, are asking the chief, is this really important? They will accommodate it or not.
And that could even involve moving funds from another source within the fire department.
Well, it'll either be they'll force them to take it from another source, or they will come back to us with an identified new source of funds to pay it.
Okay.
Anything else there on the fire department list? Okay, so what I would do is, for increase number one, and we'll have it drafted up formally, is add $100,000 to the fire department for batteries.
145.
Joe, what page is that? And $45,000 for battery regenerators.
There is no page number. These were recommendations that were made from the dais.
Well, we'll have Paul fill in the account numbers.
All right.
Okay. So that part I don't have to put down right now, just to have them vote on to add this as an increase back to E&A.
Oh, is that probably line? I think
It's,
I think
it's page
under,
198.
Yeah, under communications, he had requested $100,000 more. That 143,715 was decreased to 43,715. So that's probably where the 100,000 for batteries.
Okay.
198.
What's the question?
We want to put that 145 in for those two things, if you'll get
Okay.
that complete. Okay, while they're working on that.
I got it. If you, here.
Which,
Okay.
okay. This is for an increase of a line item.
For the batteries and the battery regenerators of $145,000.
Chairman.
Yeah. We're not going to do any cuts, but this was supposed to be contract. You can't hire someone for that job. I thought we said contractual services, so we can go out there and hire. I mean, that's not that much.
Cover the fund.
How am I going to hire someone?
On page 195.
What? Man, I ain't taking nothing out of the sister cities. That's a good program. So that's not enough money.
25 for this, but yeah, this.
So you
Okay,
do
well, I
one
need
would
more
decrease
money
that, and
if
then
you want to do
would
this. Tom,
it
that's not
increase
enough
to
money to hire Jack,
5,000.
unless they're two part-time people.
Yeah, if we do it, but if we did
Or you could
45,
hire
we-
me for
If we
180,
did 45,
but I need another
I don't
90.
need nobody that big.
145?
Yes, sir.
Sorry, Paul.
Add another 30 to it.
Or
At least
we
we
just
cover
recommend
fringe. It's gonna be
increase.
that anyway.
Okay.
314 to.
You get one of those sheets and fill it out for me, please.
That number plus, I'm going to
The white sheet.
Is that the, which one's
This is an
the?
increase.
Yeah, do a white sheet.
You're saying from 43?
So we're adding 145 to that 43?
Yes.
No, they're going to write it and copy it for you. All right, while they're doing that, let's talk about salt for the street department. It's there in front of you. They asked for $330,000 in salt. I do believe that, okay, go ahead. Just go ahead. And then Paul, the street department had indicated that they would like $330,000 more in salt. How much salt do I have?
Yeah, that as the director of operations, and we also went through that pretty detailed. They had on hand 27,500 tons. When we put together the budget, we provided $250,000 to purchase another 2,500 tons, assuming that was $100 a ton. Well, because the cost had not been established yet. So when it came back, the rate was less. I think the per price tonnage was, what, 70 or less?
Yeah, $69.
Which would give them sufficient for, what, another 3,000 tons or so. So they should be close to 30, should have sufficient funds for about 32,000 tons. I think their maximum capacity is 35,000 tons. I mean, whether you need it or not, I mean, everyone's always wanted to, oh, we've got to max out. I mean,
Yeah, I know the guy that used to run the street
Yeah,
department
right
would
there.
come in and ask for salt too.
They could ask.
It's amazing. That's okay.
Real quick,
Okay.
Chairman. So we had 30,000 tons when we went into the big storm 2 years ago, and we all puckered up. And you guys gave us an extra 5,000 tons. We went to 35 going into last year, which was wimpy. So when Paul says that now, with the current budget at hand, we'll be at 32,000.
Okay.
And we've also treated that salt, put a coating on it, so it should have a little hamburger helper. So I think we're okay the way we are.
All right. Anybody else want to pursue the salt? Okay. On the Recorder of Deeds office, Alderman Vaccaro, you've got written down that she would like 3 more positions.
Yeah, she had said originally, or I guess a while back, she had 48 and had been cut back. This comes from their deputy recorder that came in and talked in front of us. I have not directly talked to the recorder, but I have to believe the deputy recorder is telling the truth that with people being sick and vacations, that would like to see 3 positions put back, but I think that even a couple would be helpful. So, I mean, I would think that in no other department, you know, in the past, different departments have come to me. You know, we put back Godfrey's position. I would have to say that is the only department that asked this year to have positions put back for need. You know, and again, I think they have people out that are on long-term sickness and stuff like that. So I would like to see a proposed, you know, at least send something over like we're doing now, asking for some positions to be put back and whatever is appropriate, but certainly there should be some positions put back.
Well, I think one of the issues with that particular office is that the revenue has been declining significantly over the years as well. It used to be that we had more revenues coming in on the Recorder of Deeds office than the cost of the office itself. Now, if you look at this year's budget, actually the office costs us more than the actual revenues even generated. And while I understand everyone would like to have an increase in their staff, I think you're going to find decreases everywhere.
Well,
and so I think when we went through the budget process, at least my recommendation to ENA was not to include those additional positions. But that's again, that's up here.
And with the, you know, now they do the gay marriage and the different things, their volumes increase significantly in the marriage department, which I guess will bring more money in, but either way, I know that they're saying that any given time there's actually a larger weight, and they're having to pull people out of other departments to cover marriage and that. And I'm just going by what I was told, and I usually trust the different, their chief of staff and stuff to come to you and tell you what's important. So I would like to see that, you know, propose putting that back in there and see what comes up. I mean, you know, we don't have to do the cut like we're doing now, but I certainly would like to see that discussed. I mean, I think making sure that any office runs efficient and that, you know, they're able to get people in and out. And again, you know, with the increase in the marriage certificates going on down there, it does cause them a delay.
I assume the revenue is off in the collector because the business activity is down, so they're not processing them as much.
Yes.
Any other aldermen have thoughts?
I would just point out that that office has 40 employees and it has an $80,000 a year human resources manager, which is certainly not typical across most departments. The streets department has hundreds of employees and no human resource manager. So, I mean, I would just suggest that maybe if there's a staffing problem, it's an allocation of people within the office, not necessarily an overall staffing problem.
Anybody else?
I would like to see them brought up to snuff a little more. If their normal staffing is 48 and they're down to 40 or 41, percentage-wise, that's pretty different.
I do not have my, well, I might.
And I said my understanding is that these employees in some respects are already in place as, what do you call them? Temporary. They're already there because of the overload with the other people. They would just be perhaps made, 3 positions made full-time. I'm not familiar with the human resource position. Why it's so.
I've now gotten to the point where my small print, I can't read it anymore. So,
I'm with you.
so bear with me.
I understand.
Well, you go ahead and look at that. Alderman Vaccaro has a deep desire to do something here.
I have no deep desire,
Okay.
but any department that's come to me in the past, I always take it serious.
Right, so I am okay, personally, to go ahead and recommending, like, put back 1 position and let E&A say no, or yes.
You're asking about it.
If we go 3, let them cut it. Or go 2 and let them cut it.
Okay.
I mean, can I just interject? I mean, of all the offices we want to add staff to, I mean, we have the fire department came and said they could use EMTs. We have an ongoing discussion about adding police officers. You know, my sense is that residents of the city, if they were going to prioritize what department we added a couple positions to, would not choose this department. And I think other departments did come and ask for staff as well. I know, you know, the streets department has asked for more painters. There are certainly other departments who have hinted that they may not be staffed to the level they would like to be. And I think some of those departments provide sort of more critical life and death level services to residents, and I wish we would prioritize those positions if we're looking at adding positions to any department. So that's my comment on the issue.
Well, and I don't disagree. The fire department did not directly ask. They did say that in the bond issue that they're adding 2 more ambulances, or at least that's their hope, is to get 2 more ambulances, and that they'll be able to actually create more money and do more in-house. But it seemed to me that the positions they were asking for were, after the bond issue passed, they would need more staff to fill the ambulances, but they didn't directly come to me and say. I honestly don't remember the street department telling me. I mean, I do know that, you know.
Alderman, that's fine. Here, let me put a little wrap on this, and then we'll write it up. I agree with Alderman Ogilvie, but I'm in the accommodation mode this morning. So the significance of doing 1 for 2, since we're not going to do a corresponding cut I'm okay with supporting that to accommodate and let E&A redetermine it, but my thoughts generally would be with Alderman Ogilvy on this. But what I suggest is, unless somebody vehemently opposes, and Alderman Ogilvy, you can vote no on it, but I'm in the accommodation mode. Let's write it up for 2, Alderman Vaccaro, and we'll move on.
Thank you.
Okay. And like I said, everybody can vote no, but let's keep moving here.
That's it.
Okay.
333.
I don't see the amounts,
Technically,
but I might have Tom Shepard go tell me what the amounts are on this one. Tom. Marnie.
that's okay.
I don't know what the exact number is on this. Why don't you go on up to the podium there with these?
110 and 25.
Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead, or hand me. Yeah, you take one and go up there. And
With salary and fringes.
2.
Yeah, 2
Right.
positions, yeah.
These are 2 positions, this is just increasing.
No, no, not you.
No, that's
No,
right.
you're talking about.
We're working on the other one.
2 full-time.
Okay.
There's already,
Or here, no, you want one, and I'll pass out these.
They were saying it's about.
they said 28.5 is what
So I was
an
just,
entry-level clerk is.
and then I figured with fringes and stuff, Dave, I was thinking, I'll just put all of it. Go 35. Okay, I just put- I don't know.
Because it has to be in anyway.
Paul might know.
Let's move on.
Well, salary and fringes.
One's, well, 24025.
While they're working on that, Tom, will you explain to me what we have here?
Dave?
24.
Sure, these are a couple increases to the Board of Aldermen's budget per discussion in committee a couple weeks ago. One is increasing the professional services account from 0 to 25,000. Per the Board of Aldermen rules, we should be able to fund what's called a legal contingency fund for 25,000. So this would be 25,000. It's in a general professional services account. Could be used for legal expenses or any kind of professional services. The way it's written in the budget, the way this increase would be written in the budget. There's another addition here to the salaries account, increasing just the salaries account by $110,000. And that would be to cover 2 positions. One be a financial analyst position, and one would be a legislative research position. I'm not sure exactly what grades they would be to fit in those salary amounts, but.
All right, and Tom, so we're putting in, what's the total amount for salaries and benefits on?
110.
Well, just for salaries is 110. I mean, we could, the director could do, I changed that for this amendment. The director, the budget director could do a quick calculation for us on what the total amount would be with fringes and benefits. I think he'd want to clarify that and make sure it was exactly correct before we wrote it down or anything. But since it's additions, which will happen at E&A anyway, he would do that before we get to E&A. But I would suspect it would be another maybe $35,000 or $30,000.
You're about at 151 or so.
Yes, yeah, another 40,000, 151.
All right, so point is, we're going to send it up as a request. This is to give us the ability as the legislative branch of government to have an independent input both into legal matters when the complex things come to us. And I do think it's time that we do when we do get these complex things, to have somebody working on the financial side of it. Is there any opposition to these two? Well, then I will.
Long overdue.
Okay. We'll do them as 2 amendments, okay? And they're here in front of us, so. Anything else on anybody else's mind? Alderman Kennedy?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I just wanted to have the committee make the suggestion that they, E&A makes the Prop S fund whole as soon as possible. They took out 314.
And what I would ask is if you could just give me, write out about 3 sentences for me how you want it worded.
Okay.
And then I will put it in a letter.
Okay.
And then I will take it to the E&A meeting with me.
Right. That'd be fine.
Okay.
Do you need that today, or can I?
No, you can get it to me later.
All right, thank you.
Okay, because they haven't, I don't know when the next E&A meeting is scheduled. Does anybody in the room know? Tom?
Third Wednesday.
Next Wednesday?
Third.
Right, well, you got to have a special meeting for us.
Okay.
Okay.
I'll get that to you then, Mr. Chairman.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Okay. While they're working on that, Alderman, we're going to go ahead and start with the one that starts with $1,947,466 for the Board of Aldermen. No, go ahead. Do I have 5 people? Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, they.
Okay, what did you just give him there, Mr. Clerk? What did he take? Did we redo these? Board of Aldermen?
Yeah, I just wrote them. I didn't read the notes.
Okay, well then, I'm sorry, Tom had this. Okay, let's do the fire department first. The fire department, adding the batteries and the battery regenerators are suggesting the increase to E&A will be amendment number 1. We've discussed it. No other discussion? All right, Mr. Clerk, please.
I don't have a motion.
I move we adopt Amendment 1 to Board Bill 1.
It's been moved and seconded that we adopt amendment number 1. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderman Kennedy.
Aye.
Alderman Moore, Alderman French.
Aye.
Alderman Vaccaro. Alderman Carter, Alderwoman Murphy. Alderman Ogilvy.
Aye.
Chairman Conway.
Aye.
6 aye votes, 0 no votes. Amendment number 1 passes.
All right. Amendment number 2. Alderman Kennedy, can you hold for 1 second? Just 1 second here. We've discussed the increasing, adding back or increasing the 2 positions to the Recorder of Deeds office. No need to further discuss it. I would move that we adopt amendment number 2.
I second.
It's been moved in second. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderman Kennedy. Aye. Alderman Moore, Alderman French.
No.
Alderman Vaccaro.
Aye.
Alderman Carter, Alderwoman Murphy.
Aye.
Alderman Ogilvy.
No.
Chairman Conway.
Aye.
4 aye votes, 2 no votes. Amendment number 2 passes.
What, hold on. Here it is. The salary one. And then we'll be good to go, Alderman. I'd like this vote to be 6-0.
Thank you.
No, that just, thank you, though.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. This is amendment number 3 is the add the salary so that the legislative branch has the capacity to get input for professional advice on items that we need and that we're being asked to analyze and vote on and take out to the public. I think we've discussed it. I would move that we pass amendment number 3 out of committee.
Second.
It's been moved and second. Amendment number 3. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderman Kennedy.
Aye.
Alderman Moore, Alderman French.
Aye.
Alderman Vaccaro.
Aye.
Alderman Carter, Alderwoman Murphy. Alderman Ogilvy.
Aye.
Chairman Conway.
Aye.
6 aye votes, 0 no votes. Amendment number 3 comes out with a due pass recommendation.
Yeah, we're fine.
We'll do previous roll.
You're good. So I'm going to be right with them.
Get past the bill.
I know. That's the way it is. Right. Okay, amendment number 4. The 25,000, Tom, I'm sorry, where's Tom? Tom, that doesn't look like fringe benefits to me. 25,000, or were we taking the money out of this?
That's adding it to
This is professional services.
salary.
Fringes is included in the contract. We adjusted it.
Okay.
141,000. Correct.
If we need an attorney or somebody come in as professional, so it's in our,
Okay, this is adding $25,000 to the Board of Aldermen's professional services.
Yeah, currently 0.
Okay. I move that we adopt amendment number 4.
second. Previous roll.
It's been moved and seconded that we adopt amendment number 4. There's been a request for previous roll. Seeing no objection, amendment number 4 is adopted. Is there anything else? I would move.
Here's the million-dollar question. Is it a committee, son?
Well, it's technically not amended because I can't increase without the acceptance of, so my motion is to send Board Bill number 1, okay, back to E&A with the proposed increases as suggested by the Ways and Means Committee.
I second.
I'll ask for previous roll.
It's been moved in second that we send the Board Bill number 1 back to Ways and Means for E&A for reconsideration of the increases as adopted by the Ways and Means Committee. Previous roll's been requested, seeing no objection. It is being sent back. Thank you all for coming up. Meeting adjourned.